Here's a view from the back of the vessel, looking up at the solar array and davits, outboard, and wind vane. The survey report noted some section of possible D-lam around the top of the rudder. Yeah, so you can hear a hollow spot right there where you'll have a bit of a air pocket where the glass itself is probably pulled away from the foam substrate, so which is typical, I mean. But otherwise the rudder itself, the bushings and everything feel pretty tight. Hull looks really fair. I don't see any indication of any blistering or anything like that. Take a look up here at the and a little bit of cracking in the gel coat around the cockpit drain there. Two blade folding feathering prop here. Feathering, I should say, not folding. You got a little bit of chipping around the edge of the prop there. The strut was noted to have had some damage at some point in time. Now they are designed to be offset, so when you're looking at that from that angle, it's not to be alarmed, because they are designed to be offset to one side so that when you're pulling the prop shaft it will clear the rudder behind me. But you can see this bend in the strut was either some force applied to the strut at some point or just failure of the glass in this case. So some glassing and fairing will need to be done around the base of that, just to make sure that you're not getting water up and into your glass structure at all. Otherwise, the prop shaft doesn't appear to be misaligned. It turns easily. And the cutlass bearing feels good. There's not really any movement there at all. Doesn't feel loose. I like that when you can see daylight around the jack stands. There's no compression of the hull around the jack stands. Good solid construction on these old French boats. There's the transducer. Hull looks very fair, very clean. No appearance of any kind of blistering whatsoever on this boat. Your speed indicator turns. everything looks really fair in terms of the hull, condition of the hull. Bottom paint actually doesn't even look that bad. But with bottom paint, of course, any amount of time out of the water can deactivate any anti-fouling properties in the paint. The ablative properties will probably still be okay, but any anti-fouling itself might not be. You can see some micro cracking in the surface of the paint itself just from drying out. So, you know, you'll want to roll a new coat of bottom paint on this boat. Okay, starting at the back of the cockpit, looking at the solar panels. And VHF antenna. Dinghy davit setup. And of course the wind vane attachments. Looking at cockpit, gel coat is all in really good shape. There's no pressure cracks anywhere in the corners of the cockpit. Dickinson rail barbecue. Adjustable backstay. Binnacle with Ritchie compass and mounts for possibly a iPad or something along those lines. And you can see the belt wheel for the autopilot steering and mount on the binnacle below. And all the teak in the cockpit is in pretty good shape by the looks of things, including the cockpit floorboards. Again, no cracks in the corners of the cockpit. VHF, or rather a chart plotter bracket there. There's a couple of the mounting holes there from something that would have previously been equipped here. Cables, which are just sealed with some kind of an epoxy by the looks of it. This is the back of the instrumentation that comes through the cockpit here and accesses the electrical on the other side of this panel. Running rigging looks to be quite new still. Of course, the centerboard mechanism there for raising and lowering the centerboard. Engine controls, or instruments rather. You have Lumars 40s Lumar 48s. This winch feels very, very stiff, so that needs a rebuild. Single speed winch cabin top. Again, they all probably need to be serviced. And another Lumar 48 2-speed, very, very stiff. Evinrude outboard on rail bracket in the cockpit. You can see some cracking there of the teak on the around the winch here. Again, no cracking or anything in the corners of the cockpit. And some wear and tear on this teak again on the cockpit combings. Okay. A little bit of corrosion on the steel stainless for the Dodger cover, but that should polish out. The stainless itself looks to be in good shape. Okay, and we'll move forward from here. Sail tracks. Again, really no cracking or stress or anything anywhere along the cockpit here, or rather the along the walkway. Tow rails are in good shape. Nice non-skid deck surface here. The non-skid looks to be in really good shape. Teak rails are pretty thin and a little tired looking. The standing rigging looks really good. Still a lot of the chroming on the bronze turnbuckles. And the fork toggles look like new. Some cracking in the caulking or whatever gasket they made there. Lifelines are loose. Those would probably need to be replaced in my assessment. We got a life raft bracket here. Hatches look to be in pretty okay shape. Of course, there's some fogging or crazing in the plexiglass. Looking at the base of the mast here. The mast boot. Again, single speed winches here at the mast base. Looks like you may have a 2 single line reefing on this. and see if we can figure out what the reefing setup is. Yeah. It looks to me like you have an outhaul here for your mainsail and maybe one reefing point. So, oh, okay, yeah, there's two lines here, so I'm assuming an outhaul and two reefs. There's 3 sheaves in the back of the boom, and then these 2 other horizontal sheaves, which are 1 turns. Okay, so it's an interesting setup. Okay, moving back along starboard side again. Deck hatch again. You can see that some of the caulk here, some of the caulking is shrinking away, so I don't know if there's a leaking issue there. But again, the whole deck surface is in excellent shape. Again, in all these sort of stress riser locations here, there's no cracking anywhere. The gel coat looks to be in really good shape. It's in need of a good waxing and polishing because it is a little chalky, but you know, there's the odd little nick here and there. Big cockpit hatch again. Same issue with the caulking around the plexiglass here. Otherwise, condition of deck is great. Feels very solid underfoot. Your big Maxwell electric windlass here. With the up foot switch, be a manual release in that case. A nice Rockna anchor. And Harkin roller furling on the front. Anchor snubber and extra lines. The other side of the anchor locker. And chain locker. And even around the locker, there's very few sort of spider cracks, stress cracks in the hatches themselves. Everything's really solid. A little bit of spider web cracking up here, but otherwise the decks are really solid throughout. A little bit here, of course. Stainless on the anchor roller looks really good. And the furling foil itself looks to be in good shape. Swivels really well, feels good. Foil looks good and straight all the way up. Furling drum itself feels, oh, it might just be the line itself kind of hanging up there. It feels okay. And the tack swivels really well. Looking from the bow back. The handrail is missing in that section. Big spinnaker pole. laying on deck with its brackets to secure to. So, me personally, I'd probably want to just go with a piece of stainless handrail in there. Take out the teak railings altogether. It was noted in the survey report that some of these stanchions are slightly bent. They mount to the tow rail itself, which is nice, so they're not actually going through the surface of the hull joint, deck joint at all. So other than a little bit of bird poop up here, the deck is very solid, no cracking, no appearance of any issues. You have a cracked stanchion base there. And like I said, the lifelines all the way around look like they need to be replaced. Okay, standing at the entrance to the companionway, heading below. Get the bird's eye view of everything up here. It smells nice and dry down here, which is to be expected, of course, being in the Sonoran Desert. It is pretty dry. So standing just left of the companionway here. Now let's pan around so we can have a look at the galley. We have the Dometic DC refrigerator, freezer. Just a 2-burner propane stove. Stainless countertop here. Leave that open for ventilation. Double stainless sinks. Hot cold water tap. I'm going to assume a salt water tap and maybe a fridge drainage tap. I'm not really too sure on that. The cabinetry looks to be in pretty good shape in terms of the quality of the woodwork. No real evidence of any serious water ingress anywhere around here. Propane controls are just up here. There's no latch on that, so that would be a concern for me underway, that can stay firmly secured shut, same as above. You just see a little bit of water damage there right at the top of the companionway, which you would expect. Water is always going to get in around the companionways. Very slight amount of cracking there around the glass right at the top of the companionway, but otherwise the construction is really solid. And the liner is quite clean in general. Maybe a little bit of moisture comes in around these dorade vents, but generally it looks like it's quite clean and will clean up very well. So yeah, it looks like you get a little bit of dust and moisture coming in through these dorade vents. Okay, standing just to the right of companionway, looking on the port side of the boat at the navigation station, you have the Jensen Bluetooth stereo system there. Nav deck, pilot guides and so forth, your B&G chart plotter. And here, Zeus Touch Hybrid, I believe. Your Iridium Go unit right here. Handheld radios. VHF. Right beneath the companionway stairs is your instrument panel, electrical panel. AC panel. And 12-volt DC panel, battery switches. All recently renewed, rewired. And some kind of hieroglyphics right here for instructions. Okay, while I'm here, I'm going to move. Oh, of course, you get your EPIRB unit here. I'm going to move abaft into the aft cabin. And this is really interesting. You have this little day head right here in this closet section, which is quite curious. Not sure how comfortable that would be, but it is there. Hatch into the cockpit here for ventilation or passing things through, I'd imagine, to your helmsman. Some more stowage beneath the cockpit with latches this time, and tool storage. And a double berth. If you were wanting to cozy up with somebody, it looks like you can comfortably sleep two there. Very comfortably sleep one. B&G Zeus 7 box back there. It's actually a really neat layout, maximizing the space for a 38-foot vessel. To have like 2 full cabins is quite nice. Port side, starboard side on this bunk. We've got the upgraded NEP2 expansion port here, and networking cables. Your Vesper Marine AIS transponder unit, autopilot brains, and the Rhenology solar controllers. And it would look like they've left the batteries disconnected without any solar charging. So, and then looking from the bunk across here to the bunk, we have the a little hatch again for ventilation. It's a nice space here, and the little vanity sink set up right here on the port side of the vessel. That's cute. Victron Energy battery charger sits on the back side of this cupboard right here with your plumbing access through hulls. Let's see if we can get these to move at all. They're all currently in the closed position. And they all feel quite stiff, in fact. Yeah, those are all very stiff, so they would need to be serviced prior to launching the vessel. And a water filter housing there. It looks like it's been disconnected, but more stowage here above the vanity. Decent sized hanging locker right there with your tethers and PFDs, jack lines as well, jack line webbing. That's the proper material to have for jack lines right there. Okay. A little hatch between the aft cabin and the rest of the vessel. And here in the aft cabin you have access to the back of the electrical panels. Fairly clean wiring for the most part. Balmar regulator for alternator regulator. Backside of battery switches. And backside of your DC breakers. And the anti-siphon loop for the raw water engine intake. Engine, this whole section removes and slides back out of the way to give you great access to the back of the engine. Engine was confirmed replaced in 2009, and it looks quite clean. The hoses look good. Hose clamps look good. Steel looks good. There's not really much evidence of any oil leaking or corrosion from leaky coolant or anything like this. Engine mounts look to be in really good shape. It's of course hard to pick up on video every little detail like this without looking in person, but there's a good look at the engine mounts, not too badly corroded. A hose clamp there that's popped off. Oh no, that's pretty secure. It's just a bit of a elbow bend there. That looks good. And a aftermarket oil housing there. And access to the back of the panel in the cockpit, where you can add lots of instrumentation there. It looks wide open for adding additional instrumentation. And your cables are all, your network cables are all nicely labeled there as well. So moving forward from the aft cabin again. Of course, you have to appreciate that the boat has been stored, so it's not exactly in show condition, it's in stored condition. You have a little humidifier there. Both sails appear to be in really good shape. Main sail was new in 2009 as well, according to the listing details. Both the sails look to be in excellent shape. I have not seen them yet fully deployed, so just based on a quick inspection of them here in the bags, they look to be in good shape. Stitching looks good. Material still has good crinkle sound to it, which I like to hear. You know, evidence of a little bit of mold staining there, but the material is still quite white and bright and stiff, which you like to see. It looks to be in good shape. Salon material looks to be probably original to the edge of the boat. There's the slightest bit of the odd indication of water ingress around some of the ports, the corners of the ports. Nothing substantial by any measure by the looks of things. Easy access and view for inspecting the attachment points for your chain plates. Getting the woodwork along the cabin top where the deck meets the interior joinery. There's no evidence of water ingress there. Nothing alarming by any means. You have your compass box for the autopilot. I call it the altimeter, but it would be your gyro for the autopilot. Okay, salon cushions, of course, they're dated, but not in terrible condition. Just dated. Huge amount of storage beneath these hatches here, underneath the walkway of the boat, basically. Tons of room for tools and materials. A couple little bronze barometer and clock here. Don't know if they're functioning. Looking at the top of the mast, it looks like there could be evidence of a little bit of water ingress around the mast boot. A little bit of evidence of moisture around the top of the mast. And it's very typical for keel stepped rigs to wick water down into the vessel. Unfortunately, it's kind of a part of the, goes with the territory of a keel stepped rig, unfortunately. And we have a little inspection port here at the base, so we can have a look at the step, the keel step itself, and the base of the mast, and very little corrosion given the year. The base of the mast is soft and the hardware connecting it is in good looking shape to me. I don't see anything there that would be of alarm or concern. It looks very solid, no real rust issue there, or even very little oxidizing of the aluminum itself on the mast extrusion. And the cabin sole itself is in generally pretty good condition, as you would hope to see. Of course, you can see a little bit of what looks like UV or maybe even water damage from being directly beneath the hatch here in the salon, main salon. You got all the battens for the main laid out here. But again, woodwork in general is in really good condition, and certainly at the top of the bulkheads, there's no evidence of water staining around the tops of these bulkheads, which is very promising. Taking a look into the head now, the forward head. Some discoloration on the woodwork here. which one would have to assume would be from years of using the shower and just general moisture in this space. The countertop surface, melamine surface, is still in good shape, which is good. It tells you that it hasn't been absorbing a ton of water over the years. It's a Jabsco manual marine head, easy to service and replace parts. And the head appears to be in fairly average condition, which is expected being the age of the boat and years of using this space for showering and so forth. So a little bit of sanding and varnish wouldn't hurt in this space. To port of the forward cabin, you have this great hanging locker space here. It's just ginormous. Huge hanging locker space, full length for your foul weather gear. A little bit of insulation over top of the backside of the chain plates here. Looks good. I don't see any corrosion here at all. Chain plates look to be in great shape, really, without getting too destructive here. Yeah, this stainless looks great. No rust or pitting there. And looking forward into the V-berth cabin. We've got another panel here for solar. Slight little bit of discoloration of the floor there. You can see the condition of the Dodger. Looks to be in pretty good shape. The isinglass is still quite clear looking. The sunshades look to be in pretty good shape. The stitching looks good. A little bit of fading in the color there, but it looks to be in quite good shape overall. It's a real nice, oh, there's your hydrovane attachment there. Again, the woodwork, condition of the woodwork in here, it looks really good. And it's a rather large V-berth here. It's very wide at the widest point. You could sleep widthways across that if you wanted to, or lengthwise. It's quite large. Okay, and you have this fantastic access to the front of the engine here for any servicing as required. You can see a little bit of evidence of some leaking from the thermostat area here, from your freshwater loop, coolant loop. Belts look really good. Not really a whole lot of evidence of any belt dust or anything on the front of the engine. Looks pretty clean overall. And again, you can see the engine mounts there look to be in really good shape. The steel plates beneath it are in really good shape. There's some diaper rags down the bilge there, which both look very clean. They're not soaked with oil or anything. So in general, that all looks really good. It's a Prestone Lise Nivelle alternator, just the same incidentally as the one on my boat. It's a very robust alternator, that one. 105 amp alternator, so that's a good output on that one. I'll just have a quick peek in the bilge here as well. Or rather, you have access to plumbing. bilges look nice and clean in general. Access to another through hole right here, which appears to be your raw water intake for the engine. And that's quite seized on there too, so these all need to be serviced. At this point they are non-usable in the current condition they're in. Let's have a quick look underneath the sink here in the galley. You have your easy access to the strainer there, which is great. So you can actually get any debris that you take up in the sea strainer easily cleaned out with good access. And again, through hull seized in the half open position. All of those will need to be serviced. And your manual saltwater, I'm assuming that's a saltwater foot pump there. Could be raw water as well, or clean water I should say, fresh water.